Let's just begin by examining the rationale of moving offshore, if you like, at this particular juncture in the life of Redefine.
Sure, Godfrey. Redefine has had a stake, a 26-27% stake in Ciref for the past 3 or 4 years. And then we have been looking over the last 2 years at other opportunities offshore. That's really because the global financial crisis created the opportunity in terms of which it is now possible for South African property companies to buy into offshore vehicles at returns higher than we can get in South Africa. Previously, returns in the UK, for example, were 5 or 6%, and now we can get 8, 9, 10% returns, and of course borrowing costs are much lower there.
But you are going into the UK at a time when we've seen some of South African companies listed overseas thinking about getting back home and getting their listings just in Johannesburg without a dual listing. Is there any sort of
Yes, I think that's one of the things. As I say, for property companies, we think it's an opportune time. We have been investing in Ciref, so we've decided that Ciref will be the vehicle in terms of which Redefine houses all of its offshore operations.
Now, the last time you spoke about this, I think this was sometime last year, you described the UK market as in distress, as well as the rest of Europe. And I suppose that was at the height of the financial crisis that we saw last year. Is that still the case, and what are the prospects for the UK market?
There's still distress, and that's what creates the opportunity for us.
Right.
Distressed markets create buying opportunities.
Sure.
Yes, the risk is higher, so there's a trade-off between risk and reward, and one has got to be very careful about the kind of asset you buy.
You must be buying for the long term, because if you bought distressed and we're still distressed, when do you see an upturn in the UK market?
Well, we see it starting. We think it's very, very slow. Things are a little bit better. Christmas sales were, from the retail point of view, were better than people thought. So we see very, very small signs of a recovery on what's happening on the ground. But as I say, in terms of the buying opportunities, the opportunities there, and don't forget that in the UK and in Europe, leases are very, very strong and long. So if you have a tenant who's got a good covenant, you're getting a lease for 10 or 15 years. As long as the tenant doesn't go bust, you're fine.
Which section of the UK property market are you focusing? Commercial, residential? What are you looking at?
We're not in residential, we're in commercial and retail. A little bit of industrial, so we're across the board, primarily in the UK and in Germany.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you're just primarily looking at the UK, so you're also in Germany, other parts of Europe that perhaps you could potentially be looking at?
No, we really just want to focus on those two.
Just in terms of the structure, how will this remain then? Will Redefine in South Africa will remain as it is, and Ciref will remain as it is, or do you have a plan to perhaps combine the companies eventually?
No, Redefine will remain as it is. We see that Redefine will ultimately have between 12 and 15% of its total assets invested in the offshore vehicle, which will be Ciref, and Ciref will be inwardly listed. So it'll have its primary listing in the UK and the secondary listing on the JSE, on the main board of the JSE. So that means that South African shareholders will be able to invest in the offshore property portfolio without any of the exchange control hassles or using the offshore allowance.
Yeah. Now, when you issued a statement listing your desire to move overseas, you also spoke about returns in the UK going to be better than South Africa. I guess perhaps this year, next year. When do you anticipate that will be? And how likely is that, given the high growth that we've seen in the South African property market? Yes, we've had a slowdown.
Returns are currently better. So the initial returns are better.
Okay.
We can buy, as I say, properties in the UK at better returns than in South Africa. The growth obviously is lower. You get 4, maybe 5% per annum growth versus the 8 or 9 in South Africa. But then we also have to take into account that the rand is likely to depreciate over the medium term.
And inflation is likely to be lower as well. But you're also looking at Australia?
Yes, Ciref has just made an acquisition in Australia. It's into a company called Cromwell, which took us a long, long time to get into. We now have 15% of Cromwell, and Cromwell itself is looking to make an acquisition which will enable us to take the stake up to 25%.
You're excited about prospects in Australia?
Very. I think the Australian market has surprised me. When I was there in February last year, I thought it was decimated and would take a long, long time to come back. And by August, September, it had really changed. The mood on the ground has changed. I think it's one of the first countries, certainly in the first world, to see robust signs of a bounce back.